Hello and welcome to Rockies Recap. My name is Steven. Right there is the awesome, wonderful co-host, Tom. Tom, how are you doing on this Thursday evening?
I've been a little under the weather the past couple days, but I'm feeling better. The one thing that did brighten my day a little bit is we're about to talk about a series victory over a playoff bound team.
Yeah. I mean, again, we've talked about this. I feel like every single recap over the last few weeks, we talked about the Rockies having a series win against, the Atlanta Braves a few weeks back in Colorado. Then the Rockies, they played good baseball against the Milwaukee Brewers. They won that series in Milwaukee, who just clinched the playoffs yesterday on a walk-off against the Philadelphia Phillies. And by the way, pitching for the Phillies in that inning, that gave up the walk-off was former Rocky Carlos Estevez. So that's a nice shout out there. But you know what? I'm cheering for Carlos. Hope he has a good rest of the year and into the postseason with the Philadelphia Phillies. Hopefully he makes that roster. I think he should. He's definitely a really good bullpen piece. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised because I think he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Carlos Estevez gets a lot of money in free agency. But hey, maybe he would like to come back to Colorado because the Rockies, they know him pretty well, and he's pretty familiar with Colorado. So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, again, like we've been talking about, the Rockies, been playing a pretty competitive baseball. I think ever since that series against Miami and Baltimore at the end of April, not April, a long time ago, at the end of August, it kind of helped the Rockies. Change of mind and start focusing on like, okay, let's just finish out the season strong. Well, one more month to go. Let's try to play our best baseball. And, they lost the series to the Braves, but they were able to win one game. And the Braves, they're trying to, make the playoffs. Of course, they're right there with the Mets. But I think, it's going to be very close. I'm excited for that matchup. I think those are the two teams that, if you're a baseball fan in general, you got to watch the Mets and the Braves. The Braves had a big win today against the Cincinnati Reds. But yeah, the Rockies, they won a series against the Brewers in Milwaukee a couple weeks ago. Of course, they lost the series to the Tigers, who are, by the way, tied for the last place spot in the American League wildcard. Tigers, will they make it? We'll watch out and see if they make it. Then they won a series against the Chicago Cubs in Colorado, and of course the Cubs are out of it. Ha ha. And then they win a series against the Arizona Diamondbacks in this series. And we talked about it at the start of not yesterday's, and last week's Rockies recap, that this is a series that, and I'm getting some comments saying, bro's wearing an A's hat. Well, for those who don't know, and I'm sure most of you guys know, this is going to be the last, I believe, week or next week is going to be the last time the A's will be playing the Coliseum. As of right now, it could change. Hopefully that does change to where they will stay there and they just rebuild or just build a new stadium. Please, just do it. Just do it. But yeah, so I'm wearing an A's cap today just in honor of A's fans everywhere because they've been living in pain for many, many years because of horrible ownership. But anyways, let's talk about Rockies baseball. Let's go back to that. But yeah, the Rockies, they've been playing, very good baseball, especially against, like we've said, for the past few weeks against postseason teams. The Diamondbacks, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to land in probably the second or third place wildcard spot in the National League. I think they've been playing pretty good baseball heading into the series. But again, the Rockies won game one, 3-2 on a walk off. It was a really really weird play. It was a ground ball to second base. It was a double play ball, and Brendan Rodgers, he was able to you know get the bat on the ball. But unfortunately, we've seen this way too many times this year where the Rockies, they have runners in scoring position and they ground out into a double play. And they've, of course, we've talked about it many times, the Rockies, they've really struggled this year in with RISP this year, and I was so scared that they were going to just get in a double play, and the inning was going to end. We were going to head into the next inning, but it was a throwing error by Geraldo Perdomo, shortstop for the Arizona Diamondbacks, which gave the Rockies a 3-2 win. Rockies pitching in that game outstanding, like we've been seeing for the past several weeks. Um, I'm trying to pull up the pitching matchup here for that game. Um, Antonio Senzatella, that's right. He had the start on Monday night. He pitched 3 innings, 4 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and of course, it wasn't going to be a long start anyways for Senzatella. Again, this is his first start since May of last year. So the Rockies, they're trying to be careful with him, as they should, because the worst thing you can do as a team is just to have him pitch 6, 7 innings in his first start, right? I mean, he's going to build up to it, I think, going into the offseason, but really the focus is just getting in some of those pitches, just warming up his arm, just getting some reps in, and he'll probably get like one more start. He'll probably get a start here in LA starting tomorrow. I'm not sure if he's going to be pitching tomorrow. Probably not, according to the game day app. But Senzatella will probably get 2 more starts this year. But he looked pretty good, despite him being out for a while. Anthony Molina, he's starting to pitch well. However, there's considerations that maybe the Rockies will move him to the rotation next year as a backup rotation guy should the Rockies need it, because the Rockies they could use some pitchers, especially there's no reason why the Rockies shouldn't do that. Even if they're going to have guys back in the rotation like Marquez, Senzatella, there's no problem for the Rockies to have some extra pitchers there. Luis Peralta still looking good, and a lot of Rockies fans' favorite already. Seth Halverson, 2 innings Monday night, 2 hits allowed, no earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, and a bunch of these Rockies guys, Tom, in the bullpen are touching 100 miles per hour in the bullpen. So yeah, it just it's awesome to see, and it's like every single night we'll talk about it on our we'll put in our captions on our final score posts, just talking about how excited we are of these young guys in the bullpen. And it's just like that the Rockies can build off of that, and to where now maybe the Rockies shouldn't do much in the offseason when it comes to bullpen, because if they have these guys that are going to pitch like this in the bullpen, which have been, a solid improvement, maybe the Rockies just only need 1 or 2 guys in the bullpen in the offseason that can be come in and, on minor league deals and kind of help the Rockies out, and then maybe trade them at the deadline. So it's been great to see. So again, game 1, really good game for the Rockies, pitching wise. Offensively, a little bit slower. They were going against a pretty darn good pitcher for the D-backs who was coming in with some injury history early this year. He was having some injuries. Merrill Kelly pitched 6 innings, 2 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Did give up a home run to, I believe it was, trying to figure out who that was. I think it was Tovar. Yeah, it was Tovar. And so, and Hunter Goodman, by the way, got a home run in that game, and he's been playing pretty well, even though the batting average doesn't look good. But the Rockies, they were able to take game 1 pretty well on that walk-off. So they handled the Diamondbacks there. Game 2, 8-2 score for the Rockies. Ryan Feltner continues to be amazing despite the record, 3-10. And I was talking to somebody just recently about how Ryan Feltner is actually not that bad of a pitcher. Even though you look at the record, you would think that he's a bad pitcher. He's actually been one of the best Rockies pitchers this year. 4.73 ERA after Tuesday night's game. He's 3-10 with a 4.73 ERA. Again, really good start. 6 2/3 innings, 5 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 4.73 ERA, like I said. And again, bullpen solid. Jaden Hill, he looks pretty good. Did give up a run in game 2, but Shivili, he looks good again. 1 inning there, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 3.42 ERA. So again, a bunch of the young guns look good. And this is, again, against the Diamondbacks, who are reigning National League champions. They're going to make the playoffs again. Good job on the Rockies, especially for guys that are in their first year. Like, seriously, like Halverson, Peralta, Jaden Hill, Chavi, they just had their debuts, just like, I feel like, just, for some of these guys, just like last week or a couple weeks ago. So very impressive for the Rockies pitching staff. Offensively, it was clicking in game 2 against Jordan Montgomery, who is a Scott Boras client, which we've talked about many times. Jordan Montgomery, man, he's not having a solid year whatsoever. He's, record not bad, 8-7, but ERA 6.23. And this is a guy that pitched pretty well in the playoffs last year for the Texas Rangers, the World Series Texas Rangers. But yeah, Tovar went 3 for 5. He got a home run, which now has 25 on the year. And then Hunter Goodman got another home run, which was his 13th. McMahon went 2 for 3. Rogers went 2 for 4. Rogers having one of the more underrated seasons on the Rockies, and he's probably been one of the best players on the Rockies this year. And then Jordan Beck, he went 2 for 4. So again, really good night for the Rockies. 8 RBIs as a team. Let me see here. Tovar had 2 RBIs, and that was the most on the team. And so yeah, really good baseball in game 2 for the Rockies, and then game 3. Not so good. Austin Gomber struggled, especially in the first 2 innings, giving up 6 runs and 2 combined innings, which kind of didn't help the Rockies there. And then, of course, the 3-run ninth for the D-backs. Kind of hurt them. But again, like that first inning, first couple innings, if Gomber would have pitched well, the Rockies would have had a better chance to win. But of course, we've seen a lot of these games and series where the Rockies don't have a good game and it's just like they can't finish out a sweep. But still, the Rockies take care of the D-backs in a 3-game series. Um, Overall thoughts, bullpen has been great. Starting pitching, for the most part, has been good. Again, we're playing against postseason teams, Tom, and it's just really promising to see that we're finishing out strong to end the year.
Yeah, the bullpen pitcher I've been most impressed with as of late is Molina. I think his last 4 or 5 appearances, I think, have been scoreless, and I think 2 or 3 of those have been multi-inning appearances. I think game 1 was he pitched 3 innings, 3 scoreless innings, I might add. So, I think definitely I know earlier in the year, again, 6.59 ERA is due to his inflated first half ERA because he had a couple. I remember, I think he had he had 2 appearances where he gave up more than 3 runs. So that's going to inflate your ERA. It's just like Freeland on opening day. That's what led to his somewhat inflated ERA.
Mm-hmm.
But you pointed out, I think guys like, again, Peralta, fantastic. I mean, I think you specifically really was looking forward to seeing this guy pitch at the majors. And who I think, didn't somebody reach out to you from the Brewer? Oh, no, it was Pirates or Brewers. I'm sorry.
I think it was Pirates, yeah.
Didn't somebody reach out to you and say, you guys got a steal from us?
Yeah. Again, like Luis Peralta came from Altoona Curve, which is the AA affiliate team of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And yeah, like a bunch of people on our X page, go check it out if you haven't already. Go follow us there on X. But a lot of people, especially Pirates fans, are not happy with Ben Cherington for making that trade. And I mean, it wasn't a bad trade. I mean, Jalen Beeks is having a pretty nice time in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is not making the playoffs, but it was a good trade in my opinion.
Well, I think I looked up with the Pirates. He has a 2 point. It's an ERA below 2.5. But
which
the story
is,
of this
not bad, yeah.
The story of this series is the fact is, like you said, the bullpen was not. I mean, again, game 3 was just unfortunate. I think once Gomber got pulled after 2 innings due to an unfortunately bad start, the bullpen did what it needed to do to recover, and Kinley just had didn't have his best stuff altogether. And again, of course, the Rockies have been tough with runners in scoring position, but game 1, they were not very good with runners in scoring position. Game 2, they weren't bad, 5 for 14. However, they left 10 runners on base, but they still won the game. And then game 3 was their best game in terms of all that. They went 3 for 5 with runners in scoring position. So altogether, I mean, like you said, it's against a playoff team. Right now, the Diamondbacks are tied with the Mets for the second wild card spot, and the Braves are 2 games behind both of them. So with a few number of games left, it's going to be a dogfight. But like we said, this is the time when the Rockies are going to get some opportunities to play. Again, they're not going to spoil the Dodgers season because we got 2 series against them. They're already going. But to your point about adding to the bullpen, they're going to give some of the guys chances like Halverson, Peralta, Molina. They're going to give these guys chances. But I'm not sure you saw in the comment, I sent you a private chat message. Both Carlos Estevez and Jeff Hoffman are free agents this offseason. Not to say the Rockies won't. I mean, who knows? I mean, I would personally love to try and see if Jeff Hoffman would be interested in coming back. That's just me, though.
Yeah. I mean, you do look at his numbers at Coors Field before he went to Cincinnati. It's not very good. Like his last year, I think he has ERA above 9. So,
but he's a different. But I think he's a completely different pitcher,
right? And see, and you look at other guy like Yency Almonte, who again succeeded away from Coors Field, and he can learn from that. And so he might have something in the bag that. And listen, I know the Rockies, and I think they already know this as a franchise and as a front office, but. Several years ago, a lot of people said that under Jeff Bryce, the Rockies had no analytics. Like they only had one person running analytics, which is horrible, right? But under Bill Schmidt, the Rockies have been able to bring in at least 12 or 13 people from outside the organization, not just within the organization, from outside the organization, from teams like the Dodgers, I think, the Rays, Nationals. Trying to think of there's probably other teams out there, but and see, it's just like I feel bad for those guys because again, like they just said, it felt like living in a stone age because you didn't really know who to talk to about analytics, like what pitch should I throw, and just like I feel like maybe those guys would come back and maybe they will, and I hope that they do. Maybe Bill Schmidt's like, hey, we want this guy to come back because maybe Jeff Bryce kicked them out the door, and maybe they didn't like Jeff Bryce that much, which who wouldn't like or who would like Jeff Bridge. But it's just like I wouldn't be against it. I could very well see it. I think the Rockies they love their old guys to bring him back. I would definitely welcome it, and I think a lot of Rockies fans would too. Except maybe with some of the age, wear and tear of some of those arms, but still, like they have experience in the bullpen, and so I wouldn't be upset against that. And so, so we'll see. You know, I guess we'll answer this quick question on Instagram, then we'll move on to our last segment or two. So we have Alec in the comments here on Instagram. Again, if you're watching on Instagram, leave us a comment. We'll try to answer your question or your comment. He says, "What do you all imagine the starting rotation will look like next year with how
Wow.
Feltner and Gomber have pitched lately?" And again, good question, because the Rockies, they're going to have something that we haven't had in a while. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, and that's pitching depth. And
Mhm.
because the last couple of years with injuries, not a lot of that. And so I think, with and with Feltner, for sure, Feltner I think could definitely still be on the rotation. He'll probably be a number 5. Gomber will still be here. I think he'll be like a number 4. For me at least, because I know Marquez, he's going to be number 1, Freeland number 2. Gomber could be number 3. I could definitely see that. Quantrill, I think there's a case where he could come back. Um, I, however, the Rockies, this was a report I think by Denver Post that this was right around the All-Star break. I think there was reports saying that the Rockies were not interested in extending Cal Quantrill, but things can change, and so maybe they'll bring him back. I feel like Quantrill could have a big year next year. Now, again, kind of like in baseball, we'll always see a guy just not, have his year, like Nolan Jones. It always happens to where this guy has a big year. You have high expectations for the following season, and it just flattens like a pancake. And I feel like that was this year for Nolan Jones. And, I'm not saying that's going to be Cal Quantrill next year, but, we could see a big year next year for Cal. And so I wouldn't be against bringing him back. But you know what? Again, we've seen this before, and especially when we're in a day and age where we're seeing a lot of pitching injuries. I think it would be a good idea to keep all the guys, and just for a little bit of depth. And you can have more depth in AAA. You can have Ryan Rollison, who is, I think he's in AAA right now. You got Peter Lambert, who is not a horrible option. I wouldn't really go for him as a starter. I would probably go for him as a long reliever. I think that's his best role, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I think it would be a great idea for the Rockies to keep all these guys just as, reliever slash pitching depth, because you never know, one of these guys might not be feeling well, or the Rockies might be like, hey, you know what? Or this is just me throwing something out there. All right. Imagine, let's just say the Rockies are actually doing an extremely good job, and they're actually, I know this is crazy, just calling a Rockies fan, but imagine the Rockies are somewhat in a wild card race next year. I know it's crazy, but still, just bear with me. Let's just imagine the Rockies are in a wild card race and they want to rest their pitchers before the postseason or before an important series against the Dodgers or the Padres or the Giants, D-backs, you name it. The Rockies, they might need guys like, Ryan Feltner to pitch in there or whatever, and so, there's nothing wrong with pitching depth. And I think in regards to Feltner and Gomber, those guys I think will be in the rotation next year. There could be a possibility. And I think former Rockies GM Dan O'Dowd actually kind of liked the 6-man rotation idea, because I think when he was here with the Rockies kind of went down that route. And it wasn't a horrible thing. I mean, it wasn't, the greatest. A lot of people didn't really recommend it, especially at Coors Field, but I wouldn't be against it. So to answer your question, Alec, I think those two guys of Feltner and who else did you mention? It was Feltner and Gomber. They're going to be in the rotation next year. So it's going to look similar, but I think, those two guys will definitely be back there.
Well, given the fact that I think that Gomber, Feltner, and Quantrill each have more than 27 starts, I think all three are going to be in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Given the 6 primary starting pitchers they have, I think it will be Freeland, Marquez. I would go Freeland, Marquez, probably Gomber, Quantrill, Feltner, and then I would have Senzatella as the 6th option.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that can change. Who knows? That's just me. That's my thoughts. I do agree with you. I think they're going to add veteran depth.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look at specifically at, again, we're not going after guys like I think Scherzer and Verlander. We're not going after those guys.
No.
They're too old and they're going to be too expensive, especially given who we're going to have to negotiate with. But I think what they could do is do a trade for a guy like a Quantrill and add a veteran who is not at the latter half of his career, but in the probably in the mid prime of his career, you could get some good value given the prospect capital. I think we can afford to lose.
Mhm.
Also, sorry, Blaylock. He's also going to be in the mix for one of those spots too. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about him.
Yeah. I mean, he's been,
But the truth
you know,
is, I think that they're going to add. I think they're going to add rotationary depth, but also to lead into another question, that's their thoughts on next year. It's going to be a transition year where I hope they can put together they define the core that they can add veteran free agents
yeah.
to
Yeah.
round out
And
it to
yeah.
round out the contending roster. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I think this was an interesting topic that kind of came up recently on another Rockies podcast out there. But I think this is the first time in a couple years, at least, for Rockies pitchers to have multiple guys that can touch, close to or around 100 miles per hour. Because for a long time, the Rockies didn't have anybody, whether in the rotation or either in the bullpen, that could touch 100 or get close to it, like 90. I think it was like 95 or 97 plus. So now we have those guys, and Halverson, Vodnik. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else, maybe even Kinley. I know Bard. He is, I know,
Mhm.
when he was healthy, he could hit 99,
I
and
think
so.
I think Molina can. I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would make sense too because again, he's young arm. I think he's like 22, right? 23 years old. Um, and so and here's the thing too, because I was just thinking about this the other night. I was like, well, is he like, because he's a Rule 5 draft pick, will the Rockies have to worry about having him, No, because I think it was only for this year. So next year the Rockies can't put Molina in AAA. It's just for 1 year. You have to have him on your roster. And Molina's been on the Rockies roster the entire season, and he hasn't been bad. Again, again, he's extremely young. If you look at his age, it's either 22 or 23, I know that. But um yeah, I think Molina is definitely a guy that I think has a really tremendous upside. I really like Molina, and again, I think the Rockies, according to some Rockies beat reporters, a lot of people are saying that the Rockies are going to try to turn Molina into a starter. I love that. I think it's a great thing because, I know some of the scouts for the Rockies, and I know this is kind of up in the air because I remember some people got offended or didn't like the comment made by, Sterling Montfort, who is actually, I think, the head of scouting the department, or one of the top people in the scouting department, which I think from, again, he used to work with the Grand Junction Rockies many years ago, and he's been in the baseball operation for a long time, and he was actually one of the best scouts in baseball for a lot of people. And so he said recently that Molina reminds them a little bit of Marquez, both coming from the Rays organization. Marquez and Molina, they've actually been around each other a whole lot this year. Marquez is kind of treating Molina as a younger brother. I think that's a great idea, that mentality of like, hey, if it can work once, it can work again. So we'll see what happens with Molina. I wouldn't say that he's going to be Marquez 2.0, but Molina, he has that upside. Again, he has some really good starts this year, emergency starts or bullpen outings. Molina definitely has upside, and even Marquez in his first time with the Rockies, he had some bumps and bruises. And look at Marquez, solid 2018. I'll never forget where he had, what was it, those 7 or 8 straight strikeouts against, I think, the Phillies at the end of the season. And I know a lot of you who are listening or watching, you probably remember that. But Marquez, during those years, he was solid. So, and I think he'll be fine. It's just that he's been struggling with the injuries, and I think a lot of it, or maybe not a lot of it, but some of it has been with the pitching clock and the pace of game. But he'll be fine. It's just that the Rockies need to make sure that he's 100% going into next year and not rush him. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Rockies to rest him and other players that are just tired out. And I think Marquez was just honestly just tired. And he had some strain in his arm. And so that's why the Rockies are sitting him for the rest of the year. So we'll see with that. But yeah, I'm excited for the bullpen, the rotation. I think, not to mention, we didn't talk about, some of the pitching prospects that are on the come up. Carson Palmquist, who ended the year in AAA Albuquerque. He could be a guy that could be in the rotation as soon as next year. And that's very, very possible. So we'll see what happens with Carson Palmquist next year. Chase Dollander, of course, he's on a lot of people's radar as a potential guy to see next year. I think it's possible, not to mention, we were talking about it before we started, but Chase Dollander, he pitched very well the other day in the playoffs for the Yard Goats, right? And he almost got them the win. I mean, again, you're playing against a really good Yankees AA team against the Scranton. I think it's Scranton, right? I'm trying to think of their AA name. I might be wrong.
It's Scranton. Yeah.
It's Scranton, yeah. So they were playing against Scranton, and as you know, one of the top prospects in baseball is in Scranton, and that's Spencer Jones, first baseman, infielder. So, I mean, you're going up against the Yankees Double-A team, and the Yard Goats. They were able to, despite them losing the series here, they were able to make the playoffs. And of course, we talked about last time.
Um,
So go ahead.
Real quick, I'm sorry, I was wrong. They're double. The Scranton is their AAA team. Double A is Somerset Patriots. Sorry,
Somerset. Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Somerset.
sorry.
Yeah, the Patriots.
My
Oh, you're
mistake.
good.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the Patriots in the Yard Goats. So, like I was saying, the Yard Goats and both the Spokane Indians, both Rockies affiliates, they were able to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, Fresno got close. The Fresno Grizzlies, who are the low A team of the Rockies, they had a really good year, just didn't make the playoffs. But yeah, Spokane made the playoffs. Hartford made the playoffs, and of course the Yard Goats, they had a good year. And then you go to the Isotopes, pretty big drop off in terms of talent. But they it was kind of like the major league team, not a lot of talent there on the roster. You did have a few guys there, but really the AAA team for the Rockies, the Isotopes, a lot of like depth and filler pieces. And those a lot of those guys in AAA are probably, never going to see the big leagues unless if there's an injury or something like that. So. I think next year we're going to see a lot of changes to the Isotopes. We're going to see a lot of Double-A players this year going to Albuquerque next year. I'm talking like Adele Amador, Sterling Thompson, guys like that. So I think we're going to see those guys in Albuquerque next year. So really good season for Rockies minor league, affiliates. And by the way, I just want to quickly mention that we'll have a minor league player of the year in our awards. So that'll be coming up next week, which again, I can't wait. And actually on Sunday will be our first day of our voting. And I need to remember who we're going to be, which award that will be voted upon, but we'll let you know on Sunday when that thing happens. So again, stay tuned for minor league player of the year, because we're going to have to get, together, Tom and I, we're going to have to look at some players, but I think we have a player on our minds, and we were kind of talking about him before we started. And of course, we're not going to spoil it for you guys, but he had a pretty good year for Spokane this year. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, yeah, again, going back to the Rockies, really good series against Arizona. Pitching, they've looked a lot better, especially the bullpen. So there's stuff to move forward with, and there's definitely pieces to where the Rockies can build off of heading into 2025. So the Rockies, of course, had today off. They have a new series tomorrow against the Dodgers in Los Angeles, and of course, the Dodgers, they just whooped the Marlins' butts. Just recently today, they won the game. I believe it was 20-5. And of course, we'll quickly talk about Ohtani. It's just, again, there's nothing really much more to say about Ohtani. Of course, he just hit 50 stolen bases, 50 home runs. First player ever in baseball history. And you look at all the history of Major League Baseball, he's the first guy to ever do it. Pretty darn good, right? I mean, it's just you can't really describe it, really, honestly. He's just so good. And so, the Rockies, they won't have to worry about him hitting 50-50 against the Rockies. So you can, take a sigh of relief there, but still, it's just, the guy is so incredible, and the Dodgers are just, they're clicking to end the year. And of course, they're playing against, teams like the Marlins and the Rockies, but still, it's just 3 home runs in one game to do it. It's just, it's crazy, man. It's just, he's out of this planet. He's out of this world. It's just unbelievable of who he is. And again, it's just, this guy is just getting better and better. It's just, it's crazy.
Like I've said before, he's one of those players that I'm thankful and grateful that I'm alive to see his career play out. And God forbid I live long enough to see his entire career. But
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. I mean, what more can you say about the man? And I mentioned this to you before we started the show in our pre-show meeting. His WAR this year is 7.3. He's a 7-win player as only a hitter. This is not even without him pitching at all. And
Yeah.
it just begs a question for me to think, what kind of season would he be having at the plate and on the mound if he was able to pitch this year? Again, I'm not going to speculate or guess. I don't think it's right of me to do that, or it would be just insulting of the history that he's done this year. Personally, I think I did say this on one of our previous episodes. I would have liked to see him do it against the Rockies, because I would have been able to watch it live. I don't watch every game from other teams. So, but yeah, it's sensational. The man is incredible. And like I said, this will be the first year. It's hard to believe this is the first year he'll ever go to the playoffs.
Yeah. That's what I'm so excited about, because I talked about it a few times, already. It's just like, as much as we hate the Dodgers, as much as I hate the Dodgers, it's still going to be so much fun to see in the playoffs, because we got a taste of it in the World Baseball Classic last year. and having Trout versus Ohtani, that was epic. That's what we need. And I think World Baseball Classic, a lot of people tune into that stuff. Why? Because they want to see Ohtani and Trout in the playoffs or in big moments like that. And so it's good for baseball. And again, what we talked about this many times, as much as we hate seeing the Dodgers in the playoffs and all that, and we want to see them choke, which I'd like to see them choke too. But again, we're going to see Ohtani in the playoffs. I think, again, it's going to be good for viewership, which whatever. I guess maybe Major League Baseball will be happy about it. Good for them. But again, it's good for Ohtani too, because he's wanted this for a long time. And again, I know you know, a lot of stuff with Ohtani, but I just remember last year, the past few years when he was with the Angels, you just saw it in his face. He was just done with that organization. He wanted out. He wanted to play in the playoffs. And, I think there was a part of him that he wanted to do with the Angels. And I know Mike Trout, who is still over there, he wants to win with the Angels, but I'm sorry, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, especially with that one particular person, which we talked about. There's a lot of people like that, unfortunately, but it's just like we're going to be able to see Ohtani in the playoffs, and it's just like, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, the postseason starts in like 2 weeks, so we're right there, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. But yeah, the guy is just it's simply incredible. So going into yeah, go ahead.
No, just real quick comment. Just looking real quick to give people an idea, if the season end today, they would obviously get a first round bye, but they would get the winner of the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. So
yeah, and I think the Phillies, they would have the number one bye.
The two teams with the byes would be in the National League. It would be the Phillies as the 1 seed and the Dodgers the 2 seed. Then if you go over to the American League, it would be Yankees as the 1 seed and the Guardians as the 2 seed. Which, by the way, major props to Stephen Vogt, first year manager.
Yeah, I saw the video. They were celebrating, and it's just Austin Hedges with the theme, with the announcement, and it just like scream it. And of course, there was some language in there, but again, it's so cool that of course, he shares my first name, so I got to respect Stephen Vogt. And not only that, but his last year was with the Oakland A's right here, baby. So, but shout out to Stephen Vogt and the Cleveland organization, and it's gonna be fun.
I think I remember correctly, his kids announced his last
it was so cool. I mean,
for his last event, which I think he hit a home run in too.
Yeah, and it's like for anybody, I don't care what age you are. It's like it kind of like gets you choked up a little bit. Again, it's like, I mean, sure, I just don't understand. I'm sure he was getting the emotions when he was walking up to the plate in that moment, because I watched a little bit of that game. It was against the Angels, and I just remember it was just like, oh man, that's got to be special. And it's just like in a bleak year, in a bleak organization over the last several years, it's just for him to do that is so special. And but yeah, it's just happy for Stephen Vogt. He deserves this. And I know when he got introduced in Cleveland, right before the season started, when he had his introductory press, he got emotional of how he was just so grateful and so excited because he loves this game. He's a guy that loves the sport. And when he was a player, he was kind of a I think he was somewhat of a jokester in the clubhouse, but he was a very positive guy. And I think a lot of players love him just because they gravitate toward him. Right. And he's a wonderful guy, wonderful person, wonderful player. And so again, happy for Cleveland. They got a heck of a manager over there. And I think I'm excited to see what Cleveland does, because, for a large part of the season, especially in the first half, Cleveland was arguably one of the best teams in baseball. And, it's still crazy to think that the Rockies won a series against them in Coors Field. But again, I just can't wait for the postseason to start. It's going to be a lot of fun.
They would, as I said, they would get the second seed bye. They would get the winner of the Twins versus the Astros. And one thing I'll say about Vogt, he's a nut, as you said. I would call him also a baseball lifer, but he's also another example as to how catchers make great managers.
Yeah, and a lot of people are wondering, could Jacob Stallings be a manager? I can see it.
I wouldn't doubt it if he wanted to. It's
that's definitely be a manager. Yeah,
I mean, that's if, of course, not every people think that every coach's desire is to manage. Not all of them do. Some actually are content with being assistant coaches or pitching or hitting coaches, that kind of thing. So
yeah, Pedro Rodriguez, he could definitely be a good manager.
I would say so.
Yeah, but I mean, Elias Diaz, he could be a really good manager too. Especially if he was a manager for the. I think Diaz, isn't he from Venezuela?
Yeah, he's Venezuela. Yeah, Venezuela.
Yeah, I could see him doing the World Baseball Classic. I know Yadier Molina, he was the Dominican Republic.
No, I think it was Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you're right, Puerto Rico, because I think both him and Francisco Lindor, they were on the same team. So yeah, it's awesome. And I think it's great. I mean, pitchers and catchers, a lot of managers are both. They go into management, which is really cool. Joe Girardi, catcher, manager. So that's another name out there. So yeah, I mean, happy for Stephen Vogt. And again, I'll never forget. I don't want to be inappropriate or anything, but I'll never forget the highlight where he got hit in the private area several years back. And it's a very, it takes some discretion to watch that video because it's kind of graphic. But you have to have. Again, try not to be inappropriate. You have to have the balls to be a catcher. So let's just say that.
It's a
But
position where you for sure always need to put your cup on.
that's right. That's why if I was a catcher, I'd definitely get a cup and definitely wear one of the. I think a lot of catchers prefer the hockey mask over the old ones.
I am a
Um,
big proponent. When I was a catcher, I tried that the what's it it's the mask where you got the hat and then you take the flap the mask off. I
yeah.
tried that one time, never again.
Nope.
I always used the helmet.
Yeah, and I think Wilson Contreras is going in that route because again, this
Mm.
year you got hit, by the backswing of Ian Happ. Was it this year or last year? I
I
I feel it was like last year. It's just so crazy how time flies. Was it last year? Because it was
no,
my
last year was his last year with the Cubs. So if he got hit by half, then it was this year.
yeah, it's just so strange because it just tells you how somewhat of a long season it's been. But yeah, like Hap he hit Wilson on the side of the head. His like ear was bleeding. It was just like a concussion. It was just horrible. And again, like a lot of people say, that's why we're seeing a lot of more hockey masks as catcher, which is great. And I think it's good for basically. I mean, almost everybody's doing it now. There's still catchers that still wear the traditional one, like Will Smith still wears it. Trying to
A lot
think
of
of
a number of guys still do. I can go,
yeah,
but yeah. But
yeah,
like I would always go with the hockey mask always,
yeah. So
because
again,
because the best part about it is you can wear a backwards hat underneath it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Elias Diaz, he did that. Of course, some catchers don't, but I think most guys do. Maybe there's a piece of thing back there that kind of makes it uncomfortable, so they have to wear a hat. But anyways, again, going back to Cleveland and talking about them, and because they're of course like Tom said, they're kind of up there. They're in the buy areas. It looks like they'll probably get the buy as long as things don't fall apart for them. But yeah, Cleveland 89-65, having a really good year. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. They're 48-28 at home and 41-37 on the road. So good for Cleveland. I'm excited to see what they do. Kansas City, they look like they might be in the wild card this year if they can hold on. Of course, they've lost 4 games, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about the Tigers very briefly about how they're trying to hang on to that last spot for the wild card. So again, we're in the last stretch now. We're last week and a half of the season, and we're going to see a lot of jockeying in the postseason bracket. So that's going to be awesome. And one thing for sure that we're going to have to do, I think we did last year, is that we're going to have to come out with our bracket predictions, and we'll try to post that on the story once that time comes. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Quickly, as we wrap up tonight's show, again, the Rockies, they have a 3-game series against the Dodgers in LA. And by the way, this will be the last time the Rockies will be on the road in 2024. So this is it for the Rockies on the road. The rest of the games are at home in Coors Field in Denver. So make sure you go out to the ballpark, enjoy your Rockies. I know it's been a bad year, but you know what? There's nothing wrong enjoying a nice, evening at Coors Field, especially to close out the summer because fall is right around the corner, right? So got to get out there, go buy your Rockies tickets. And I know my brothers, and my sister, they're going out to the Rockies game on I think Friday against the Dodgers. I think it's Friday or Saturday. But anyways, not this Friday, but next Saturday when the season ends. So game 1 for the Rockies will be Kyle Freeland. He'll be on the mound, who is 5-7 with 4.89 ERA. He'll be on the mound for the Rockies. For the Dodgers, is to be determined. So TBD. We'll see what happens there. Who will be starting for the Dodgers? Could be a bullpen game. We'll find out. Game 2, Cal Quantrill, who again got touched up a little bit in his last start against the Cubs. Kind of has had a bumpy second half, but yeah, his ERA is not too bad. It's 4.68 with the 8-10 record. He'll be going against Walker Buehler, which is still so weird to see him with the not so good ERA, 5.54. He's not looked good since coming back. He's 1-5. And, for the Dodgers, for a lot of Dodger fans, they're kind of worried about that rotation, especially in the playoffs, because there's still a lot of questions about injuries and just performance overall. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Kyle Quantrill, he'll be getting game 2 start against Walker Buehler for the Dodgers. And then game 3 will be an afternoon game, which is a kind of a rarity, especially at Dodger Stadium, because a lot of games at Dodger Stadium are usually night games. But that will be a day game. Antonio Senzatella will get his second start back. He'll be going up against a really good pitcher this year and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. In his first year with the Dodgers, he is 6-2 with a 2.63 ERA, and this guy can be a strikeout machine. So it's going to be again another interesting series for you to watch. I mean, the Dodgers again, they clinched the playoffs today with the historic win against the Marlins, especially with Otani and everything. But now the Dodgers, in some ways, they don't have to really worry about, yeah, as much as they would like to win 100 wins at this point now, it's just about finishing the season well, just making sure you're staying healthy. And so maybe the Dodgers are going to, take it easy the rest of the way. I know the last series at Coors Field, they're probably going to just play a bunch of their younger players or their bench players before the postseason starts. So I don't know. Maybe it gives the Rockies an opportunity just to get a little bit more momentum, more positivity heading into the offseason. And by the way, I mean, the Rockies are only one win away from, getting past last year's win record, which was 59 wins. And last year, the Rockies ended up at 59 and 103. So it looks like the Rockies will be able to surpass that win total this year. But still, like I've said many times this year, I don't care if you're a 103 loss team or 97 loss team, you're still a bad team. But at least the Rockies can hang their hat and say, you know what, we kind of moved in the right direction. Maybe not much, but we moved in the right direction. We're heading, we're getting some positivity. We're gaining some momentum heading into the offseason. And for the Rockies, this is a time where they can't fall asleep and say, "Hey, there we go. We're all better now." No, you still have to fix your issues. You still have to grow your farm system. And so, again, I think if the Rockies, which it looks like they're going to do it, if the Rockies, let's just say they avoid 100 losses, which would be crazy. If they do that, that's good news. It's just that you just don't want the Rockies to fall asleep at the wheel and say, "Hey, everything's fine," because it's not. And so you want to make sure that you stay the course, stay the plan of what you're going to do. Still build up your farm system and try to become because again, things could fall apart next year and you could be as worse as you are this year, right? We've seen that before. Like the Marlins, they made the playoffs last year. And a lot of people didn't really know what they were going to do this year. And of course, they are currently the worst team in the National League. They're under the Rockies by a couple games. So the Rockies, they need to make progress, even though they're going to have a better record than they were last year. They still got to be better. So no excuses as we head into the offseason for your Colorado Rockies. In other news, I think that's really it. Again, since we're going to be wrapping up this show in just a second here, we only have 3 more Rockies recaps. We have the Dodgers recap, then we have the Cardinals, and the last recap, which will be the Dodgers at Coors Field recap. Again, we just want to say thank you to everyone. Honestly, like whether you're watching on X, Instagram, or even if you follow us over at Threads, we just want to Tom and I would just like to say thank you. Again, we're going to do this a couple more times as we finish off the year. Just thank you so much for listening to our Rockies recaps. Again, next year we're going to really be focusing on posting these to our Spotify. So go follow us at Rockies Recap on Spotify, and our podcast. We'll be returning in a couple weeks. So I know a lot of people have been wondering about that. Where's your podcast? Don't worry, that will be coming back, and the podcast will be solely for off-season stuff. So we're excited about that. Again, on Sunday we're going to get going our player voting awards or player awards voting. Mix those words there. But we're excited for that. And we're looking forward to the offseason and for the excitement that will come along with it. But again, we just want to say a big thank you to everyone that has been able to contribute and just been able there for the ride and being able to follow us and like our post and everything and being able to or comment too. Thank you for your comments. And I know sometimes we won't reply to your comments, because we're busy, but if you comment, or just whatever, or just share your thoughts on it, we just want to appreciate it and just want to say thank you to everyone that's been able to do that. It's made this place a lot better, and we want to continue growing this Rockies community together, and we're excited for the future of Rockies now, and also our parent company, 5280 Media, which we're starting up, this weekend. So we're excited for that, and we're excited for the future moving forward over here at Rockies Now and 5280 Media. On behalf of myself and Tom, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for watching tonight's edition of the Rockies Now Rockies Recap. I think that will do it for tonight. As always, go Rockies.